In this video, you'll learn what we do for our clients to get them between 2 and 12 dates every single month. You learn the whole system, you get some tips and some useful information if you wanted to do it yourself, or if you are interested in potentially having us take over your dating profile. In this video, we're going to cover photos, profile improvement, texting, and dating. So let's jump into it first by talking about photos. So the first thing that we do when having a client on board is we look at the aesthetic review of that person. So what this entails is that we take a look at their face and analyze what are the key strong points of their face and their body, what are the downsides, and what are the potential quick wins that somebody can do in order to look more attractive in a very relatively short amount of time. Once we analyze that, we go take a look at all the photos that the client has. When we look at the photos, we make a selection of we think that these photos are the best ones to use on the dating profiles. Once we have established which ones we like the most, we go on to the phase of editing. When we edit the photos, we analyze hey, these were the strong suits or things that potentially can improve for the client, maybe tweak them here and there. Our vision regarding editing is that it's best to make 5% improvements across the board. So we're not going to make somebody who's extremely obese into a very thin, athletic person who has a six-pack, because obviously that's fake. Yeah, what we're trying to do is we try to make minor improvements that overall improve the photo by a mile. So for example, with my face, what we would do is, for example, straighten my nose a little bit. Even though my nose looks relatively straight, it's not 100% straight. Therefore, you would not necessarily see the difference. When you have a good photo edit done and you show the photo to a friend, they should be able to not notice that the photo has been edited. That's the sign of having a great photo edit done. Now, what's going on next is that it's often beneficial to get some extra photos done. But in order to get the photos, the best out of those, out of the photo shoot, what we do is we create a custom lookbook for our clients. And what this entails is we have them fill out a questionnaire with hey, what kind of clothes do you like and what would fit you well, etc., etc. What are colors that you avoid? What are colors that you think look good on you? And then based off of that, we create a whole lookbook for them. Now, what this has is 6 different outfits with hyperlinks to web shops that you can click and instantly purchase. So it's kind of like having a personal shopper and a fashion advisor at your disposal. And this is very beneficial because a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals who our clientele don't have time to go to a bunch of stores and look at the outfits and think, would this match, and then take photos and then send them back. And that doesn't really work out, right? So this is a super easy format. I'll show a picture on screen how it actually looks when the lookbook is done. So you have an image of hey, this is how one of the looks look, and then they would have hyperlinks. Now, of course, the purpose of those photos and of the outfits is to actually look more attractive. So we're not going to have super casual clothes that you would wear to the gym. These will be clothes that will work very well on both photo shoots for your dating app, but also if you would actually go on a date. And then lastly, we book the photo shoot. So depending on the client that we're dealing with, we'll find a photographer in that area, preferably a dating photographer who has experience with them, give them information hey, regarding the photo shoot, you should take these kinds of photos, this is kind of the output that we want, etc., etc. Therefore, the photo shoot is a lot more successful. What you would often see with photo shoots is that you get a photo shoot done and you're not really happy with the results. And often this is the case of the photographer not really knowing and understanding the type of photos that you want to get out of it, and also you not really knowing what would work well on the dating profile. The second thing that we do is we work on the profile improvement. So this includes prompts, right? We write prompts that have as purpose to show value and get engagement. Those are 2 main criteria when assessing a prompt. Of course, also in certain apps, not all apps, you have a place where you can have a bio. The bio gets created based off the information that we have of the client. So each client has their own client document, and in this document they fill in all the kind of information that is relevant for that person, and then based off of that we're able to craft the bio. We'll craft a couple bios, have the client check which one he likes best and which one we think is best, and then we upload it to the profile. And the last thing that a lot of people forget is the settings. Dating apps have certain settings which you can fill in that will get you either better results or get you no results at all. So it's very important that you keep certain metrics in mind when it comes to, hey, what do you put on your settings on the different dating apps. Now after that, we go into the texting, right? We go into the texting, the swiping, the conversational part. So obviously we start with doing all the swiping and opening for each client on all the different apps that we will use for a client. So this goes through like the super likes and like seeing which one filters based on the criteria that we've been given by the customer. And then after that, we do the opening. So we craft an opening message based on the profile that we're matching with. We don't use like one opening line and send that to all the girls. You might have noticed that as well, that doesn't have the best results. So I always recommend you to stay away from that, because dating apps don't like it when you copy paste one message to everybody. So try to come up with different messages to different people. Even if you have like a couple ones, it's a lot better than if you just have one that you use for everybody. Now, after the opening has been done, there's going to be the back and forth, right? This can either be 5 messages, 10 messages, 20 messages, or 50 messages, depending on the person. This is really what you need to take into consideration when it comes to the whole conversational part, is that you have a metric that is how comfortable is that person with going on a date with you at that specific time. Some people need very little comfort. Their profile might also state like, hey, just ask me out and I'll go on a date with you. And you're like, oh, awesome. So girls just want me to ask them out and like go on dates with them. Yes, but some women, they will need a lot more. Some women, you will have to go back and forth for a while before they feel enough trust and connection and commitment to go on an actual date. So it's very much depending on the person that you're talking to, how fast you can go from texting to dating. Now, one specific thing that we also do for our clients that people don't often do themselves, but it has a lot of value and that you should definitely incorporate into your dating strategy, is reopening. So in general, we reopen sometimes even up to 5 times. So what that entails is like having something that makes the other person engaged, saying something funny. Like there's different types of ways to reopen a person that makes the other person be like, oh, I just forgot about this person, which happens because people get bombarded with messages on dating apps. They have Instagram. They have so many things that are open that are distract them, right? So it's very normal for a person not to necessarily engage. Some people say like, oh my God, like if you reopen, you already lost and all that kind of stuff. Like you need to realize when you're having a conversation with a woman that she's not going to be committed to you as she is to her ex-boyfriend, even though she might like you more than her ex-boyfriend. It's purely because the amount of connection that we talked through prior and the commitment is just not there yet. So you need to give people time in order for them to fall in love with you and for them to like you. You cannot expect, even though you might be an amazing person, you cannot expect them from the beginning, the first message, that they're like, oh my God, this is the person I'm going to marry. That's just not how it goes, right? And then the last part that we do is closing. So what we do is we close the lead for our client. So this happens in different formats. For example, sometimes we'll have access to the calendar. That way we're able to see like, okay, the client is free on Thursday. So hey, how about we meet up at Thursday at X, Y, and Z place? We often get a couple of locations from the client like, hey, I would like to date these 3 venues and these are the types of dates that I would like to do. And then therefore we can just schedule that right directly into their calendar. And the last part that comes up is that you have the dating part. Now with the dating part, you're dealing with that you can improve the dating process a little bit. So what you can do is, what we do for our clients is we have pre-date briefing, because they're not dealing with the conversation. They don't want to spend 2 hours going to the dating app and seeing like, hey, which person, what am I having a date with, etc., etc. So we share all the photos that we have from the prospect, potentially also from Instagram. And what we also do is we give some information about the prospect, right? Like information like talking points, what they can talk to, or things that I've noted during the conversation. I'll show on screen like how it actually looks to get like a pre-date briefing. Anyway, they get that like the day before or the same day of the date, so the client can just read through it, be prepared for the date, and have actually ammunition like, hey, talk about these 5 things with the date and your date will go better, right? So this is a very valuable tool to have as a client of ours. And the last thing is like the date system. Date system is important because not every date works good for every client. So you need to analyze like, hey, what are my requirements and what are the things I want out there? What outcome do I want, right? And you try to find a match that works well. If you want to have a lot of fun and have engaging dates, etc., like going for drinks is probably a lot better than, for example, going for coffee. because coffees just have a little bit more of a tight venue, a little bit more of a tight vibe that you don't have when you go for drinks at a place that has a little bit of music in the background, you know, like the lights are a little bit dim. If you go to a Starbucks at 3 p.m., like the vibe is going to be significantly different. So we always try to come up with a date system that works best for the client, for the first date, but also for the second date. And that was kind of it, the whole system that we do for our clients. I hope you found this interesting and you learned a couple of things that you can also implement into your dating routine. If you are interested in potentially becoming our next client, you should go to Hovalo, click the link in the description, book a call. Let's evaluate what situation you're in, and potentially you'll become our next client. Hope you have an amazing day and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.